Welcome to FantasyFran.com. Sports Crazy Chris Barnes. With me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, Hall of Fame quarterback, Mr. Fran Tarkenton. And Fran, we're talking tight ends.
Tight ends.
The big guys with the good hands. And I got to ask you before we get going, we've seen probably the deepest pool of tight ends, probably ever in fantasy leagues.
We're seeing the game changing.
Okay.
The game changed in 1979, and the year after I retired, because they were trying to get more points in the league. So they changed the rules on defense, where you could hit a receiver, tight end or wide receiver, only 5 yards, within a 5-yard range from the line of scrimmage. After that, he's free to run. Before that, you could hit that receiver down the field, across the middle, take his head off, and they did. Jack Tatum, George Atkins are legendary. Harder to get receivers to get down the field. Then we had the little guys, and Marino had those little wide receivers that he had dotting out, spreading all over the field, and the modern passing game was formed. Now we're back to big old tight ends, not as blockers. But up in New England, Belichick has gone to 2 tight ends. He's got Gronkowski, and he's got Aaron Hernandez. Mm-hmm. But he splits them out. They're pass receivers. You got Scheffler and Pettigrew at Detroit, and they're pass receivers. And we've seen Dallas Clark and Jason Witten and so forth, and so they are an important part of this of an offense now, because they're big and strong and they're fast. And our number 1 pick this week is Jimmy Graham again. I mean, he's a freak. He's 6'7" or I think he's 6'8", must weigh 250 or more. He can run. He can jump. He's an athlete. Who's going to defend him? A 6'1" defensive back? It's a mismatch. And New Orleans is going against Indianapolis, and he's got Drew Brees throwing to him. I like him number 1. Number 2, Jason Witten. And Jason Witten is not the same size as Graham, but he's a big, strong, fast, knows how to run patterns, knows how to get open, and he's got a playmaker. Tony Romo is a great playmaker. He's going to get the ball to him. If we could take 2 plays a game out of Tony Romo, Dallas would be 4-1 and be a contender. They're a good team. Jason Witten is going to be good. Brandon Pettigrew's number 3 at Detroit. And Brandon Pettigrew's got the luxury of having Calvin Johnson out there, because they're going to double Calvin Johnson. They're going to try to defend Javad Best. And my boy Matthew Stafford needs to make a comeback this week. He didn't have his swagger last week against San Francisco. This kid has got all the talent in the world. He hasn't played that much. He's not like a 3-year veteran. He's missed the first 2 years. So, you're going to have those blips. And he wasn't terrible last week, but he needs to really get his swagger back. The Lions need to get the swagger back, and he needs to go to Brandon Pettigrew. Pettigrew made a play last week against Patrick Willis, the all-pro linebacker of San Francisco, in the end zone, took the ball away. Pretty impressive. Number 4, Dallas Clark, because Dallas Clark knows how to run patterns. Peyton's not there. Indianapolis, Peyton's not there now. Painter's your quarterback, and you got to go play with Painter. And they've got players. They've got schemes. They've got a good offense. Peyton likes Painter, thinks he can play. He's got to go and work Dallas Clark, because Dallas Clark is a world-class tight end, and I think he's going against New Orleans, who plays no defense. I mean, they blitz a little here and blitz a little there, but they play offense and hope to outscore you like Dallas Clark. Number 5 might be a surprise to some people, Kevin Boss. Eli Manning hated that Kevin Boss left New York. Mm-hmm. Relied on him, and rightfully so. He's in Oakland. Oakland's got heart. Jason Campbell went down, but they got Palmer coming in. Carson Palmer, real player. He may not play much or any this week, but Oakland is, they think they've got a chance to go a long way, because they've got a really good football team. Mm-hmm. So whoever plays quarterback suit, Kyle Bowler's going to play, I think, and maybe Carson Palmer. Kevin Boss is a secret to their offensive success this week. He ought to be a key guy. He ought to get a lot of balls.
Well, and he scored a touchdown last week on a fake field goal or a fake punt or something, so that was pretty phenomenal. But I got to ask you about Jermichael Finley, because you've had Jermichael Finley ranked higher the last couple weeks, but you actually have him ranked outside your top 5 this week. Why
Not because of him. I think he is an unbelievable talent, as good a tight end as there is in football. I would love to have, everybody would love to have Jermichael Finley, but keep in mind, this offense sprays the ball around. Mm-hmm. Against Atlanta a couple weeks ago, 12 different receivers caught the ball. They're great receivers all over there. And Aaron Rodgers, part of his genius right now, and part of the genius scheme of Mike McCarthy, spread the ball around, spread the field out. So That's that reason. He'll get a couple of catches, may get 3, but he's not going to get 5 or 6 very often because of the other players.
Yeah, he does kind of get caught up in the mix.
Yes, he does.
But these are the top 5 tight ends for Week 7. Join us next week when we go through all of the top tight ends and other position players. But also, while you're here, make sure to click on the projections for all the comments and rankings by Mr. Fran Tarkenton as well while you're here, right here on fantasyfran.com.